First of all, that allegation, of course, is coming from the Trump team, because they are full of mis and disinformation, because they are trying to disconnect me from the people I have worked with and that I am from, so that they can try and have some advantage in this election, because otherwise they have nothing to run on. I grew up in the black church. I grew up attending 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, California.
That's church.
Yes, that is church.
So Kamala Harris said she grew up in the black church. That is news to me. That is the first time I've ever heard Kamala Harris speak so openly about her background in terms of church. Now, we have to understand something. There's a difference between being a Christian and being a part of a church. There's a difference between being religious and being biblical. Based upon Kamala Harris's policies, I think she's more of a churchianity type of person than a Christian. But it's funny that she's now pandering to black folks so hard that she has to say that she grew up in a black church, given where she grew up.
Solomon Kinlock Jr., I want you to meet him. He is the senior pastor of Triumph Church. Where's Reverend Kinlock?
Oh, he's here.
Come on, tell Secret Service, move out the way. It's okay. It's just the Reverend. Yeah, all right.
Hey, Reverend.
What's up, Reverend?
Madam Vice President Charlemagne,
Yes,
thank
sir.
y'all for being in Detroit tonight.
Thank you.
Recently, Madam Vice President, by one of Trump's surrogates from the black faith-based community, you've been criticized by him and others for your lack of engagement to the black church. Knowing that the black church is an unrivaled place in the heart of black people, what could you speak to as it relates to a future Harris administration, how you would partner with the black church to address some of the urgent needs of the black community? Dr. King talked about the fierce urgency of right now, and as a church, Triumph Church is in that place.
So first of all, that allegation, of course, is coming from the Trump team, because they are full of mis and disinformation, because they are trying to disconnect me from the people I have worked with and that I am from, so that they can try and have some advantage in this election, because otherwise they have nothing to run on. I grew up in the black church. I grew up attending 23rd Avenue Church of God in Oakland, California.
That's church.
Yes, that is church. My pastor is Amos C. Brown of Third Baptist Church in San Francisco, California.
Yes.
I have throughout my career and as vice president and recently been actively engaged in the church and church leaders, not only so we can share in fellowship, but so we can share in what we can do together that is about supporting the community, the strength of the community, the cohesion of the community. And it is my long-standing work, and therefore my pledge going forward. I will always work closely with the church, because I understand who our church leaders are and who the congregation is. We are talking about people who are driven by faith and the ability to see what is possible by faith, where I was raised, and I know many of us were, understanding that our God is a loving God, that our faith propels us to act in a way that is about kindness and justice and mercy, that is about lifting one another up. And let's talk about the contrast here. Donald Trump and his followers spend full time trying to suggest that the measure of the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down, which is absolutely contrary to the church I know.
He sells Bibles, though.
Where our church and my church is about saying true leadership, the measure of that is based on who you lift up. And right. And then he's selling $60 Bibles or tennis shoes and trying to play people as though that makes him more understanding of the black community. Come on.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank you for the correction.
Thank you, Reverend.
And God is good.
Again.
Every day, all the time.
There you go. I had to make sure you get that right.
As you can see, the Harris family lived in Berkeley, California until they moved in 1966, around Kamala's second birthday. They lived for a few years in college towns in the Midwest where her parents held teaching or research positions. Urbana, Illinois, where her sister Maya was born in 1966, Evanston, Illinois, and Madison, Wisconsin. By 1970, the marriage had faltered, and Shamala moved back to California with her 2 daughters. The couple divorced when Kamala was 7. In 1972, Donald Harris accepted a position at Stanford University. Kamala and Maya spent weekends at their father's house in Palo Alto and lived at their mother's house in Berkeley during the week. Now look at this. So in 1972, Donald Harris accepted a position at Stanford, Palo Alto. That's not right next door to Oakland, where she claims to be from. Her mother was friends with African American intellectuals and activists in Oakland and Berkeley. Her dad is a Marxist, and it looks like her mom was a Marxist too, bought into that Marxist ideology. In 1976, she accepted a research position, this is Kamala's mom, at the McGill University School of Medicine and moved with her daughters to Montreal, Quebec. And Kamala Harris graduated from Westmount High School in Montreal in 1981. So, if Kamala grew up in the black church, at what point in time was she active in the black church? Was it when she was 6 years old? Was it when she was 7, 8? I mean, I don't know how much of a memory and how active she was in the black church. Because when you say you grew up in a black church, that means you came of age in the black church. That means that in your formative years, you were active in the church. Based on this, in her formative years, she was in Canada. I don't know of too many black churches in Canada, number one. And number two, her mother is a Hindu. So why would her mother go out of her way to take Kamala and her sister to black churches? But let's continue. She then attended Vanier College in Montreal in 1981 to 1982. And then Howard University, a black university in Washington, D.C. And at Howard, she became a member of the AKA and all that stuff. But she said she grew up in a black church in Oakland. And she came of age, essentially, in the black church. Where did this happen? I'm not saying that she never attended a black church, but it's one thing to say you attended a black church every so often. And it's another thing to say that you grew up in the black church. Those are two separate and distinct things. So to me, what this shows is a lack of authenticity when it comes to Kamala Harris. It's another way of her trying to pander to the black community to show that she is black, that she is down. And you know the sad part about this, a lot of black Christians, I call them church Negroes, will be accepted. She says she grew up in a Kojic church, and now she's Baptist. She grew up in a Church of God. That's where she came of age. She said she went to a Church of God in Oakland, and that's how she grew up in the black church. You mean to tell me that her mom was comfortable enough taking her to a Church of God? Maybe so, if that Church of God in Oakland was full of activists. And that Church of God was a church plant. Because you have to understand something. In certain locales, these black churches are truly church plants. And they are there to further the aim of the Democratic Party. They have been infiltrated by the Marxists and the communists and the socialists with this social gospel stuff. That's why she always talks about do unto others. She always talks about justice. It's the social justice. It's this Marxist version of justice that does not have a biblical source. That is what she's referring to. It's that type of oppressor-oppressed dynamic that she is referring to. It's not the gospel of Jesus Christ, and it's not the God of the Bible. But so many people are fooled by that because she knows the church lingo. So many people have been fooled that are quote unquote Christians by these politicians because they can say certain phrases. God is good all the time. God is good. Please, man. Anybody can recite that phrase, but it doesn't mean that they are a part of the faith. It doesn't. This is just another example of a politician playing on the emotions of black folks, knowing that they will accept this because they're so emotional and they're so religious. They're more religious than biblical. And they'll let anyone come in and say a few things and say some lines and sound Christian, and they believe it. And Kamala Harris is the latest politician to do that. We're not victims. We are empowered for greatness.